All right, welcome to your review video for tomorrow's test. So we have gone over a couple different things. I'm going to give you a review based off of this chart because it kind of answers all the questions that you'll see on your test tomorrow. There's a chance that your test might be very similar to this chart, and you'll have to fill it in on a Google Doc and everything. So just keep that in mind. And then the only thing that's not on here is the recursive formulas, and we'll go over those at the very end. We're not going to go through all of these during this review video. We're going to go through a couple of them just to make sure that you know how to fill out all these things at the top. So let's talk about a couple of these things. First and foremost, first thing you got to do is tell me whether it's arithmetic, geometric, or neither. Again, arithmetic means adding or subtracting. Geometric means multiplying or dividing. Neither means there is still a pattern, but maybe that pattern is adding by odd numbers, which means you're not adding by the same term every single time. Or maybe it is multiplying by even numbers or something random like that, okay? That would fall under the neither category. Just so you can kind of see on here, if your answer for this first column is neither, you can still fill in the next three terms, zero term, and the pattern. However, you're not going to write an explicit formula, so it says unless you've answered neither. And you're really not going to find this given term, just so you know. So on here, there's a couple different things we're going to do. So first and foremost, there on this given term, there will be something here that says like a and then to the 10th power. This is basically telling us that we need to find the 10th term. So again, we could sit here and we could just keep going until we get to the 10th term. Or in case this says a to the 100th term and we don't want to keep counting until we get to 100, we're going to use our formula that we wrote here to solve for this. So again, these two columns won't be answered if your first answer is neither. So if this is neither, you're going to still fill out all of these, but you're not going to fill out these two boxes. If your answer is arithmetic or geometric, then you will fill out the whole column, okay? As we're going through these practice problems, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can fill these answers in, and then play the video and see if you got them right. Throughout this video, I am going to tell you a specific number to write down because you'll need to write that in the blank to show me that you actually watched the video. But it's going to be at some random point in time in the video so I know you've watched the whole thing, okay? All right, here we go. So, wait, let me grab a calculator. 1 second. All right, I have my calculator, so here we go. So let's look at this very first one. Again, we want to first find the pattern. So from -4 to -20, what's happening? Okay, well, again, I can look at my calculator. I can see, okay, it's going up, so I know it's either going to be multiplying or adding. We go from 20 to 4, so that's adding by subtracting 16. But from 20 to 100 isn't going to be subtracting 16. So let's see about multiplying. In order to get from 4 to 20, I would have to multiply by 5. So I'm going to double check that here and make sure, okay, if I take -20 and I multiply that by 5, will I also get -100? I do. So I know my pattern right here is multiplying by 5. So first of all, I can already go over here to this fourth column, which says pattern or common difference or ratio. And I can say that it's multiplying by 5. Okay, perfect. Now, next thing I'm going to do is tell me whether it's arithmetic, geometric, or neither. Well, again, arithmetic is adding and subtracting. Geometric is multiplying and dividing. So I know that it is geometric. And then my next three terms. So I'm going to continue multiplying by 5. So I have -500 times 5, which is -2,500. And then I'm going to multiply that one by 5 and get -12500. And then I'm going to multiply that one by 5 and get -625 and then 2 zeros. Perfect. So those are my next three terms. In order to find my 0th term, I want to know what comes before for this one. So since I've been multiplying by 5 each time, if I wanted to work backwards, that means I would have to divide by 5. So I can either do -4 divided by 5, and I can write it like this as a fraction. Or if I use my calculator, I can do -4 divided by 5, and I can get a decimal, and I can write that -0.8. And either one of these is perfectly fine. Okay, so for those that love fractions, you can leave it as a fraction. For those that would rather decimals, leave it as a decimal. Perfect. So now we're going to move on to our formula. We're going to remember our formula is AN equals our first term, which in this case is -4, times our pattern, or what's happening, our ratio. In this case, it's 5 to the n minus 1 power. Minus 1 power. So this should be my formula. And then lastly, I'm going to find my given term. Again, it will say a number here. So let's say that it says to the 12th, right? So I'm going to take and I'm going to plug this 12 in right here. So I'm going to do -4 times 5 to the 12 minus 1, so that's 11th power. And I'm going to plug that into my calculator and see what I get. So -4 times 5 to the 11th power. Ooh, that's a very big number. Let's see, we have a -1,953,1,2,5,0,0. So a really long number. Let's see, what is that number? We have 195,312,500. Whew, big number because we're multiplying by 5 a lot. And that's it. So I should be able to answer all of these questions tomorrow. Again, whether I give it to you in a form that looks like this, or whether I give you multiple choice or matching questions or something, you should be able to answer all of these terms. Let's look at another one. Let's look at the second one. Okay, so how do I go from 1 to 3? Okay, well, in order to go from 1 to 3, I'm either adding 2 or multiplying by 3. Well, if I'm going to go from 3 to 6, I'm either adding 3 or multiplying by 2. Well, I'm already multiplying by different numbers, so let's keep adding. Here, I'm going to add, in order to get from 6 to 10, I'm adding 4. And here, in order to get from 10 to 15, I'm adding 5. So notice I am adding every single time, but I'm adding the next number. I started with 2, and then I'm adding 3 and 4 and 5, which means the next time I'm going to be adding 6, and I'll get a 21. And then the next time I'm adding 7, which is going to give me a 28. And then the next time I'm adding 8, which is going to give me a 36. So I am adding, which seems like arithmetic. However, because I'm not adding the same term every single time, it is going to be neither. Which means, again, we're not going to write a formula for it. And we're not going to find a term for it. Because we already know, like, we can just keep going, right? We do want to find our 0th term. So if I'm adding the next number each time, that means when I work backwards, I'm going to subtract 1. Which 1 minus 1 would give me a 0. And then my pattern again, I can explain my pattern. I'm adding the next number. So adding next number. I'm just going to abbreviate for right now because it's hard to write with this. There we go. Adding next number. And that's it, because again, I don't have to write an explicit formula because I only need to write that for arithmetic and geometric. And again, I don't need to find my term because I don't have a formula to use. Awesome, let's try one more together. So let's go all the way down here to this really big one. So right away, I notice that it's starting with big numbers and it's going to smaller numbers. Perfect. Oh wait, you know what? That one it's great. It's actually a geometric. So if you want to pause this video and try this one, it's geometric. My next three terms, let's see, 70, let's see, 300 divided by 75 is 5. So let's see, 75 divided by 5 is going to be 15 and 3 and either 3/5, or if you want a decimal there, that decimal would be 0.6. Okay. My zero term is actually going to be 46,875. Okay. My ratio, or my thing is either dividing by 5, or if you want to write multiplying by 1/5, because that's what we're going to need for our formula. Because we can't write a division in our formula, but we can write multiplying a fraction. And then our formula AN equals our first term, which is that 9375 times our ratio, which is 1/5, raised to the n minus 1 power. Okay. So that's our formula. And then again, whatever term. So let's say that it wants the 7th term. Then again, I'm going to plug in a 7 here and see what I get. So again, if I were to plug in a 7 and do that in my calculator, let's see, I have 1/5 raised to the 6th power times 9375. I should get 0.6. So that means my 7th term here is going to be 0.6. Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to do one more that was arithmetic. So let's look at this 4th one. So again, I'm looking, okay, what's happening here? Well, from here to here, it looks like it goes up by 20. From here to here, it looks like it's increasing by 20, and same thing from here to here. So since it's adding the same amount each time, that's going to be arithmetic. I know that I said I'm adding 20 each time, so that's going to be what goes here. And then my next three terms. So if I take 54 and I add 20, I'm going to get 74. If I take 74 and I add 20, I'm going to get 94. And if I take 94 and add 20, I'm going to get 114. If I work backwards and I subtract 20, that means I'm going to have -6 minus 20, which is going to be -26. And then I want to write a formula. Again, remember this formula is slightly different than geometric. I'm still going to start with my first term. So I'm still going to start with this -6. And I'm still going to use my common difference or ratio next. Only this time it's plus 20. So instead of multiplying, I'm adding 20. Now, here we had an exponent of the n minus 1. For arithmetic, we're just going to have the n minus 1 being multiplied by that difference. So this is my formula. Last thing, again, they're going to tell me to find some term. So let's say that they tell me to find the 50th term. Whew, we got a big one here. Okay, so again, I'm going to plug in a 50 right here and plug this into my calculator. So if I do -6 plus 20 times 50 minus 1, I will end up with 974. So 974. Perfect. Okay, so that's the review of everything except for recursive rule. I did tell you that there is going to be a special number in here to be listening for, and that number is 5. So if you watched this whole video, learned all this fun stuff, you're going to type in a 5 in the blank and answer yes for did you watch the whole video. The last thing on the test tomorrow is the recursive rule. Again, remembering if for a recursive rule, the only thing that you would do differently, so let's say if we were doing the same one, we're going to state our recursive rule by writing A1, which is -6, and then we're going to write our A sub